You've probably heard it before, that common stereotype of the gay voice. It's everywhere. But you ever stop and wonder, is there any actual science to back that up? Well, today we're going to dive right into the research and find out what's really going on.
So let's get right to the big question. Is the gay voice a real measurable thing? If we strip away all the stereotypes and cultural baggage, can scientists actually hear a quantifiable difference in the way people talk? Let's see what the data says.
And this isn't just some abstract academic question. It's deeply personal for a lot of people. This quote from our source material really drives that home. It reminds us there's a real human experience at the heart of all this.
So how in the world do you even begin to study something like this scientifically? Well, it turns out our voices have these very specific, measurable qualities that researchers can actually break down and analyze. Let's take a look at how they do it.
Okay, so this is basically the scientist's toolkit. They aren't just guessing here, they are measuring super specific things. They look at pitch variation, that's how much your voice goes up and down. They literally time the length of vowels and certain consonants, especially that S sound. And on top of that, they do listener perception tests, where they just play recordings for people and ask them what they hear.
All right, so that's how they study it. Now for the really interesting part. What did all these measurements actually find when they compared the speech patterns of gay and straight men?
And wow, the results are pretty clear and consistent. This slide breaks it down perfectly. On average, researchers found three main differences. Gay men tend to have higher and more extreme pitch variation. They hold their vowels for just a little bit longer, and they also have a longer S sound.
And what's so fascinating is that this isn't just an English-speaking thing. Not at all. The same exact patterns have popped up in studies with Dutch speakers and French speakers, which really suggests these vocal qualities might cross cultural and linguistic lines.
Okay, let's zoom in on that S sound for a second, because it's tied to that really common gay lisp stereotype. But the science shows a crucial difference. See, a lisp is a misarticulation. It's when the S sound is produced incorrectly. What the research actually finds is an over-articulation. The S sound is made perfectly, it's just held for a split second longer. It's a really subtle but very important distinction.
So, we've got a clear, measurable pattern. That's settled. But that just opens up the biggest question of all. Why? Why do these differences exist? Is it nature or is it nurture?
The first place scientists looked, pretty logically, was biology. The leading idea was called the hormone hypothesis. Maybe, just maybe, these vocal differences were tied to something like different levels of testosterone. It makes sense, right? But when they actually ran the tests, they found, well, nothing. A big fat zero. There was absolutely no statistical difference in the average testosterone levels between the gay and straight men they studied. And just like that, the main biological theory hit a dead end. This was a huge turning point. So, if a simple biological cause, like hormones, was off the table, researchers had to get more creative. They had to look for a more complex answer. And that's when they shifted their focus completely, over to our social environment and how we learn to be in the world.
And this leads us to this really cool idea that we are all, in a way, social chameleons with our voices. We subconsciously tweak how we speak all the time, depending on who we're talking to and the situation we're in. And this isn't unique to any one group, we all do it.
For example, studies show that straight men often change their voices to sound more stereotypically masculine when they're talking to strangers or when they're in a leadership role. And interestingly enough, they also do it when they're in the presence of an attractive woman.
And the research shows gay men do this exact same thing, just the social triggers are different. Their voice might change depending on how they feel about sounding gay, whether they're talking to their close friends versus their family, or, and this is a big one, if they've already come out to the person they're talking with.
And get this, there's some super modern research that backs this all up. A recent study looked at YouTubers, and it found that after they posted their public coming out video, their voices over time were perceived by listeners as sounding more gay. It's like publicly owning that identity actually reinforced how it was expressed vocally.
So what does all this add up to? Well, we have these real, measurable differences, but they don't seem to be biological. And we know that all of us change our voices based on our social world. It seems the gay voice is way more than just sound. It's a form of auditory identity.
This brings us to the leading explanation, which you could call the adaptation theory. Basically, the idea is that the gay voice isn't something you're born with. It's a learned vocal style that people can use, consciously or unconsciously, to signal who they are and, find their people.
And here's another really important thing to clear up. It's not just about sounding like a woman. While there may be some overlap, like higher pitch variation, the research is clear that the gay voice has its own unique set of characteristics. It's not an imitation, it's its own distinct vocal style.
And while most of the research we've talked about has focused on gay men, studies are starting to show unique vocal patterns for other queer identities too. For instance, lesbians have their own vocal characteristics. They're just much less noticed or stereotyped by society at large. So at the end of the day, here's the biggest takeaway from all of this. Our voice is so much more than just the sounds we make. It's this incredibly powerful tool we all use to signal our identity, to build community, and to show the world who we are.
Which really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Forget the words you're saying for a second. What story is your voice, just the sound of it, telling about you?